and welcome to Business Today. Thanks for joining us in this bulletin. Fast growth in lending is pushing Russian banks to look for new ways at raising capital. And some of the biggest lenders are turning to equity markets. And the lapse of its deal with Boeing leaves analysts wondering how Aeroflot will go about upgrading its fleet. But first, Russian lending has been accelerating in recent years, and to meet the growing demand, the country's banking sector is always looking for new ways to raise capital. As Rosa Ibragimova reports, they're now turning to equity markets.
The sight that both pleases and yet worries the Russian banks. As the country's economy is booming, loan applications are pouring in, stretching the bank's lending capacity to the limit. Lending in Russia has expanded by almost 50% in the past few years, and personal loans, which include retail and housing borrowing, have almost doubled. But analysts point out that even with such impressive growth, the total volume of loans is still low.
Last year, Russian loans to GDP were just 25%, and mortgages to GDP were below 1%. In the developed countries, mortgages account for anywhere from 50 to 100% of GDP. So mortgages alone can drive this market a long way.
And Russian banks have no doubt that now is the time to expand. And like the country's top lender, they're desperate to raise capital to finance this lending bonanza.
In the sphere of retail lending, the pace of growth was 20-fold. Certainly, to be in line with such credit demand, the bank must be very inventive in attracting new resources.
And inventive Sberbank has been, reinvesting profits back into the bank, revaluing its assets and taking out loans overseas. But it looks like now it's only got one option left.
By existing legislation, we may repeat the evaluation of main assets only once in 3 years. And besides, we are also very conservative in enlarging our borrowings from the West. So therefore, we see that the only, beside capitalizing profit, the only effective resource is issue of shares.
Sberbank's plans are nothing new. Its main rival, Russia's second biggest lender, VTB, is also thinking of raising money on the international equity markets and plans to hold an IPO early next year. Some believe this new stock supply might be too much for investors to absorb, but others say Russian lenders need not worry. The recent listing of two major Chinese banks, they say, show investors are hungry for emerging banking stocks.
They have lots of money, they are looking for sensible ideas, they are looking for growth, and they would want to capitalize on the booming Russian economy. It's a no-brainer for them.
While Russia's oil and gas, as well as the mobile sectors, are maturing fast, the country's banks are still youthful. And though Sberbank is turning 165 this week, like other banks, it has a long road to travel. Rosa Ibragimova, Russia Today, Moscow.
Russian air flagship Aeroflot has missed a deadline for buying Boeing jets to update its fleet. During a visit to China, CEO Valery Okolov said the state-controlled company did not receive the necessary government permission for the purchase. A month ago, Aeroflot announced plans to buy 22 Dreamliner jets at a set price before 2012. But the deal between the two companies expired following the government's failure to authorise the purchase before the deadline. Aeroflot shareholder Platon Lebedev won an extension of 1 month by putting up $40 million of his own company's money. But that extension's also ended a few days ago, and the company's now looking at leasing options on the international market. But analysts say Aeroflot has limited alternatives if it's to buy new aircraft.
The company may either buy new Russian Il-96 or old foreign-made aircraft. Both variants are not very great because the fuel efficiency of them is not very good, and fuel efficiency is very important in the period of high fuel prices. Although fuel price has started to decrease this year, but still it remains very, very high. And in terms of aircraft, the company can put Il-96 on Asian routes, and it definitely needs foreign-made aircraft on North American routes, because on these routes the passengers are very sensitive to the type of the aircraft.
Rosneft President Sergei Bogdanchikov says the oil giant is planning to build a 200,000 barrel per day refinery in China and acquire 300 gas stations. He made the announcement on Thursday during a visit to Beijing, and speaking to Russia Today, he had this to say.
Rosneft coordinates Russia's exports of oil and oil products to China. It is the main supplier, although there are other companies as well. Our company alone will supply a total of 13 million tons of oil and oil products to China this year. This is a considerable amount. As far as the future goes, there is no doubt that both sides, China as a consumer and we as a company that looks to diversify its markets, would like to see this amount increase. But the most important moment is the gradual transition from the trade of crude to the trade of oil products, which will increase the profit for the company and respectively Russia's budget.
Rosneft is also building the first pipeline to China, the world's #2 oil consumer, which already receives oil from Russia via rail. During the visit to Beijing, Bogdanchikov also confirmed plans to borrow up to $24.5 billion for general corporate purposes. And analysts believe the loan is meant to help buy the remaining assets of Yukos when they come up for auction. Which brings us to a look at what's making news in the business press this Friday, starting with Vedomosti. It reports that Wimbledon plans to consolidate its dairy business to reduce costs, and all 14 companies that make up the holding may soon become direct subsidiaries. The company will review the restructuring plans and a possible additional share issue in a shareholders' meeting slated for December 19. Analysts say the planned consolidation could generate operational and management efficiencies for VBD's dairy business and lead to increased investor attractiveness. And Nokia has included Russia's main search engine, Yandex, in its mobile search application for smartphones, according to RBC Daily. The application's default search engine was Yahoo, but now it offers a choice between the two. Yandex is Russia's biggest search engine with an estimated 4 million users per day, and research shows it's the most frequently visited website on the Russian internet. Yandex offers news, mail, maps and other services, and they'll now all be accessible through Nokia smartphones. Which brings us to the market this hour, first of all to Asia, where the Nikkei has closed lower after the release of data showing Japanese machinery orders slumped in September, and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong is also slightly lower in late afternoon trade. And the Russian markets have kicked off only moments ago from the Thursday closing figures you see there. It was a strong day with the energy majors up on global oil prices and Sberbank's plans finding favour with investors. And on the line to discuss the Russian markets a bit more, we have Leo Lundqvist from Uralsib. Hi Leo, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
The Russian markets have had a reasonably strong week and oil was up again on Thursday. How do you think they'll finish it off?
We might see some profit taking today. The Asian markets closing down and the oil prices stabilizing could lead to us actually seeing some profit taking today.
Okay, Sberbank's had a strong week, trading not far off a year high with news of their upcoming share issue. How do you think that will go?
I think that is actually very supportive for the stock. It could actually attract a new pool of investors given that there's no real liquid GDR program in the stock today. And if they would facilitate its share placing before Nestor Bank comes to the market, then I think there will be some strong demand for the share issue. So it's positive. I think people are just a little bit afraid of how big the placing is going to be, but the management are trying to calm the market down there.
Okay. And Vedomosti is reporting this morning that Wimbledon is looking at restructuring its dairy assets. Do you think this will have a positive effect on their share price?
I would not think so, because it's been known basically since July, and it's more of an operational streamlining and shouldn't have too much effect on the cash flow. So people will be looking more into future financial results as a guidance for where to go with Wimbledon.
Okay, is there any other news in the morning in the trading world?
Well, apparently Raspadskaya Mine, the subsidiary of Everest, has been placed successfully at the mid of the range, $2.25 a share. So just another one of those successful IPOs being placed this week, which is supportive for the Russian market all in all. And there still is actually a lot of capital on the sidelines. So it looks like we should stay fairly strong until the end of the year unless something unexpectedly happens globally.
Okay. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you.
Sounds positive for the Russian markets. Okay, after creating the world's largest aluminium producer, Rusal is aiming to expand into new markets. The company is considering an alumina plant and refinery in China with an annual capacity of 600,000 tonnes, as well as a power station, in a project which could cost up to $5 billion. China is the world's top aluminium consumer, and the recent merger with Sual and Glencore will end Rusal's raw materials difficulties. Experts say China's demand for aluminium is likely to grow further still, and it's time for Rusal to enter new markets. And finally, Russian perfume and cosmetics company Kalina will transfer production of the skincare products of its German subsidiary Dr. Scheller to Russia in a move aimed at reducing costs. Kalina, which owns 76% of Dr. Scheller, plans to release skincare products under the brands Scheller and Manhattan Clearface. Analysts say the move might raise the brand's profitability, but warn that the abundance of low-cost cosmetics in Russia might be a serious challenge. And that is the business news for now. After a short break, Amanda will be back with the headlines, so stay with us.